Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Abdul Razak. Welcome back. Hafiz Asad. We're back with another pod. We got two guests. This is a collab. Universes colliding.
I don't think so.
I mean, you guys have met before, right?
Yeah.
Charlotte community. I think this is going to be a good episode, inshallah.
Let's hope.
The topic I wanted to start, it's actually not even, it's kind of related to Islam, but not everything is Islam, but it's a trending topic, Trump getting shot. So I want to start with Razak because I saw a post on your story that you said if you repost this picture, then you basically, you don't like Trump and you don't think he's a symbol for America, which I agree with, but I wanna push back on that idea because I think that Trump in himself, I think he used to have a lot of, he probably still does a lot of or a lot of racist and anti-Muslim rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he's backed by like all the politicians, American politicians.
Right.
But I think that he's not a symbol for America because he doesn't believe in bringing immigrants in, which I'll go on that in a little bit before I let you speak. But I think Trump he's not a representation for America, but he's almost a representation for free speech, because I think of why a lot of people resonate with him is because he says what he wants and he doesn't care what anybody thinks. And I think that's why a lot of Americans resonate with him, because they've never seen that before in a politician. So seeing that, honestly, I think even now he's going to get more votes because people are like, oh, he got shot, he's still standing. I'm going to vote for, like, some people are just stupid. Like, I'm going to vote for Trump.
Yeah,
like,
bro. I mean, that's a real thing.
So I think with the immigration thing, I'm not a politician. I'm just a civilian. To me, when Trump was in office versus Biden, it was kind of the same for me because I'm just a civilian. I don't know the difference. Maybe gas prices was the only thing. But from the narrative online, I've seen that, with the immigration thing, he did kind of help because we did have a lot of immigrants coming in, which I'm not going to say it's bad because America is built on immigrants, right? And we are a melting pot. But like the immigrants that were coming in, there was like no background checks and a lot of these people do. I don't want to say all. I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush, but they do commit crimes. They come from backgrounds where they're involved in gangs, and I don't want to say all immigrants, but some of them. And I can see how people support Trump in that area because with Biden, the narrative was that he was very relaxed with his immigration policy and just letting anybody in. So basically, my question to you is, why do you say Trump is not a representation of America, and what is the alternative? Because we're kind of like, everyone's like, you have to pick one side of the evil, one lesser evil.
Okay.
And do you think, another question, I know this is a lot of questions, but like, do you think that him getting shot is gonna get him into office, like get him more votes, or like are they trying to suppress him, like not make sure he doesn't get into office? Like, what is that reason? Like,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. Jazakumullah khairan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, most merciful. I think that first I want to respond to what I posted on my story because I heard what you said there. And what I was getting at more so is I was trying to get ahead of the people who are on my page or who maybe, because I use my page for dawah, right? I have a public page. It's open. Anyone who comes there, you can watch stuff, have all kind of resources. So alhamdulillah, I know there are a lot of people who are on my page who are learning or who are also like curious about what Muslims think about things as they go on. So I try to give relevant takes on what I see happening in the public sphere, just so other Muslims who follow my page know how to respond and have conversations about those topics. So what I noticed immediately was that there were a lot of people who I'm calling Proud Boys for the purpose of this podcast and just for conversation, people who are MAGA people, right? These red hat Trump supporters, I call them Proud Boys. So there are a lot of Proud Boys on my page who follow just to antagonize or to ask me strange questions. I get DMs weird questions all the time. So I posted it because I knew that people look at what just happened. They would look at it as some like symbol of the return of America to some grandeur or some past glory, some, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, for me, the thing that they're looking at as grandeur is torture and nightmare, because what America was 70 years ago for me was a nightmare. I would not want to be an American. I would not want to be here, and I want no parts of that, right? So the people who are seeing him as some return to some glory, greatness, I'm worried about that attitude because of what it represents for people like me who are marginalized, right? So I was just saying to anyone who was looking at my page who thought it fit to now uncloset your racism or uncloset your white supremacy or because of Trump's fist up, whatever, like, don't even start with that. Right, because I'm immediately going to remove you from my page. Like, I'm not even going to engage you, because all you're doing is revealing something that was already in you, right? It's not new. You've been feeling like that. You just feel now that you've been empowered to be able to come out with that opinion and be accepted in the public eye, right? And so I just didn't want anyone to, I just wanted to be plain with my position on that, right? No one to misconstrue. Like, I'm not saying anti-Trump. I'm more saying what he represents to me is that mentality of old America, what it was, and people who are trying to hold on to that past glory. So that's more so what I was getting at with that. Now, as far as Trump himself goes and what him getting shot, bro, he's gonna get the martyr treatment or something. Like, he's gonna be treated like a hero. Like, I don't know if you saw 50 Cent did a performance. I saw it on Instagram, and he had Trump's face on his Get Rich or Die Trying album with the bullet holes. He had Trump's face on the album in his background while he's performing. Yeah. So he's also like, just see how the media is pushing this. Song with Trump rapping. I didn't even see what I'm saying. I didn't know that, but it's so you can already see our society and our culture glorifies violence already to a large degree, and it's unhealthy. So you can only imagine when somebody who is known to be kind of a violent, aggressive person, who has this big platform, who says all these things that are controversial, easy to disagree with, then gets shot at and survives that shoot. You can understand what this person is going to take that as, right? This person is going to take that as, I'm invincible. And everybody who supports them is going to say, our leader is invincible, right? So they feel invincible. So I just see the vicarious living. I see all this stuff, and it just makes me concerned. But what I do know is that we've been put in a situation where it's tit for tat with American politics. Nothing in the legal system, nothing written anywhere says it has to be a two-party system. It's just what they promote because it's of their best interest, so that on either side they can just push non-factual information. They can push like petty arguments. They make it entertainment more than like an actual legal discourse or discourse about the health and future of the country, right? But you can't do that with three people, because somebody's going to come in and be balancing, right? Always striking a balance, right? So it's like two people makes it better. So they didn't even give Cornel West a platform. They didn't give Jill Stein a platform. They didn't let these people come up and speak, because they knew they would have said things that were more intelligent than the two. We just know that we can't go Biden again. Like, we just know that we are absolutely against that. The Democrats are disorganized. They don't know what's going on. They don't want to replace him. He's refusing. So they just look in disarray. So everyone who's sensible is not going to vote Democrat, right? That only leaves one choice based on the way that they presented things. But we know that we have a couple other options. So I'll talk about that more if you want to hear more about that. But that's pretty much my take on all this.
No, beautiful take. Mashallah. Before I hand it off to you and your thoughts, Asad, going into Islamic perspective, I don't want to get into conspiracy, but like it's kind of strange that like there's actually I think the Simpsons predicted not him getting shot, but Trump dying. But what it would be kind of crazy if there was a gun. They said somebody died, another civilian died on the scene. So what if this is just a conspiracy, like just throwing the what ifs out there? But what if that person actually died, and Trump didn't get shot? What if that was just he got under there, they put some fake blood, God knows, just to get his votes up. I don't know, but it does bring the fact that it's very easy for the media to manipulate things and deceive us. And just going off the Prophet ﷺ's prophecy about the coming of Dajjal, the world is being prepared for Dajjal, right? The world is being prepared to deceive people very easily, Muslims as well. That's why we're supposed to have strong iman. But basically, what are your thoughts on the Trump situation, the election, and like the world, being prepared for deception?
So as far as Trump goes, this is my opinion, is the way the Democrats have set themselves up, Trump was going to win anyway. Biden wasn't going to win. Last year, before October 7th, Biden probably had a chance. Since then, obviously Biden has lost all support of all Muslims. Biden's lost support a lot of his base because, you know, we're seeing it on the TV screens. We're seeing it on, even though they're not showing it, you still see it. I was talking to a brother earlier today, and he's actually creating a digital archive of what's going on in Palestine. And he's like, we need to distribute this. He was a convert brother. He's an American convert brother, and he wants to distribute this. He says because American people need to know, and Muslim people need to know what's going on. So you have children and women being killed, and at first, when everything started, they started bombarding the Gaza Strip. You had celebrities like Justin Bieber and Jamie Lee Curtis sharing pictures of Gaza being destroyed with captions like "Pray for Israel," right? And not realizing, I don't know if they're just that dumb or what it is, not realizing that these people, their houses are being destroyed, their families are being destroyed, everything's being destroyed. And, on a micro level, Christians, some of them started realizing that there's Christian Palestinians, and their churches are being destroyed, they're being killed, and we're not doing anything about it. We've tied our horse and our buggies so hard to the Zion that, we're neglecting. And I had a chat with a pastor, and I sat down with him and I asked him, it's like, these are your people, are they not? And he said, no. And he tried to make this equivalency, which made no sense. I'm not even going to say it because it was so bad. And I'm like, so you don't believe they're Christian? He's like, no, we don't believe they're Christian. And I'm like, why? He's like, because if they were, they would know to be on, basically the right side, which is Israel. And I was just lost for words. I didn't have anything to say after this. And this was 2 weeks after, everything started. And I was just in shock when he said that. So going back to the main point, Trump was going to win after that point anyway, because Biden lost all support. They have no answers. I was sitting with a guy today at my business, and the guy came in, and we were talking, and he's like, oh no, Biden this, Biden that. And I was like, are you not going to hold him responsible for the murders of at least 40,000 women, children, and other men and stuff like that? It's like, well, it's a war, things like this happen. I was like, so you're telling me innocent people dying, war, it's okay? No, it's not okay. But, Biden's not doing anything wrong. I'm like, he's giving weapons, he's giving money. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, he's giving it, but they're using it. I'm like, what kind of theory is that? He's giving it and they're using it. Like, if he didn't give it, they wouldn't use it because they wouldn't have anything. And it all goes back to the main point that Biden has alienated most of his base. The people who are still sticking with him are putting their heads in the sand. So it's inevitable for Trump to win. I'm sorry to say it. And at the same time, Trump is an opportunist. From the time he's gotten into politics, he used to be a Democrat, and he's become a Republican. He was a big supporter of the Clintons for a long time. And Trump is a huge opportunist. There's clips of him meeting with Muslim people and saying, I love the Muslims. There's clips of him meeting with the black community saying, I love the blacks, right? But his main base is obviously the white community who is hardcore Republicans. And this is, not all white people are the same way, but this is his main group, or the main core he's looking for is the rich, affluent white people who want him to do the things that he's saying he's going to do, right? And when it comes to that, he's saying all the right things for them. But at the same time, when he was running for election back in 2016, it was Eid time was coming, and he was looking for masajid to go address people for Eid Salah. He wanted to go to masajid. He wanted the Muslim vote. He still wants the Muslim vote. And if he had an opportunity, I can guarantee you this, if there was some masjid out there who was willing to host him, he would go there and he would get those votes, because he's been to black churches. He's went to black rallies. He has a lot of black support because he will go there and he will say the things they want to hear. And he's become a politician's politician. So, Trump at the end of the day, and to be honest with you, I don't think the assassination attempt, murder attempt, whatever it was, had anything to do with him winning. But with him standing up and giving that, fist bump or whatever it was, that just pushed him over. That's what it comes down to. Is he was winning 60-30 anyway. But that basically is 60 for sure. And, Biden's losing. There's no chance Biden's winning at this point. And people said, even if Biden ended the war tomorrow, we would still wouldn't vote for him because he was a hypocrite for 9 months. He's not getting our support now.
That's the Muslim people saying that.
No, there's a lot of people saying it's not just
Okay.
Muslims. A lot of people are like, no,
Yeah.
it's like you can't oppress people for this long,
Yeah.
and just be like, okay, well now it's the time to get it over in time for the elections.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see because the situation in Gaza, and then we're all just focused on Trump getting shot. But yeah, I mean, the topic I wanted to, it's kind of related but not related, is leaders, right? You're a leader, Asad's a leader. All men are leaders in a sense because we have to be leaders for our household, for our spouse and kids, for our parents as they get older. In the community, men are leaders. But there's a hadith, Asad, you can, if you know it, you could tell me, but I might be butchering it. But it talks, Prophet ﷺ says there will come a time where the leaders will be weak. Is that correct?
I don't. That's
No?
that's. It's not really much for me to go off.
I'm a layman. I've heard that hadith before. I'm gonna look it up and put it in the description if I can find it. But that kind of makes me think about you know, leaders and public figures. They're not perfect, right?
That's right.
They make mistakes. They sin. Like we look at people like, you know, I don't want to keep bringing in Andrew Tate, but like I'm gonna be honest. Andrew Tate helped me with certain aspects, like you know, he kept saying like, you know, stop crying, do the work. Nobody cares what you think.
Yeah.
And
Get out
that,
your feelings.
yeah, like you just be a man, you know. But then there's there's certain things like I can't agree with, like his approach, his character. And I know he's a man. He makes mistakes. He sins. So I can't look at him as a role model. And then even with, you know, Muslim leaders, you'll find a lot of times things come out, and then, you know, if they're past or they get exposed or whatever, and people are not very forgiving. They keep, you know, they don't overlook somebody's mistake. And I think we need to, as the community, because I've been seeing it a lot in the online Muslim community, we need to stop judging people too much and forgive them, and look at the good in the Muslim community. The topic I had written down was about this streamer named Neon. You know Neon? Okay, yeah, I'm with the
You're
Gen
watching
Z.
too much Rumble or something.
Yeah. No, it's Kick.
Okay.
But I don't watch the stream, by the way. It's DJing content. Like it's this kid. You know, I don't want to get too into it, but he makes DJing content.
Okay.
He's like 19, 20 years old. He's Desi, and he just like, he's on this website called Kick, which is basically backed by a gambling company, Stake. So he's committing sin openly. Basically, he does a lot of sins. I don't want to.
Is this a Muslim guy or no?
He's Muslim by name.
Or is he
He identifies as Muslim.
Is that a thing though? You identify as Muslim?
I just, you know, whatever they say.
Yeah.
No, it's like people can
Yeah.
identify as Muslim now.
Yeah.
It's like a thing now.
You know, it's
Yeah.
judgment though. Really, under that is judgment. We're past judgment. If he says he's Muslim, Allah.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna get into. Is
Yeah.
like he calls himself Muslim. He says he's a believer, and a lot of kids watch him. He has millions of followers. Young kids watch him. They relate to him. They look up to him, and he's not the best role model. You know, he's committing sin publicly, doing a lot of haram acts on stream. So my thing is like, I basically defended him, right? This is gonna sound crazy, but not really crazy. But once I give context, but he did a stream with this other Muslim creator, and that Muslim creator is an older guy in New York, and he basically took him to the masjid, and they did salah, they made wudu, and I thought that was a great thing. You know, he's a large audience.
Yeah.
There for the first time, his audience is seeing him pray
Yeah,
salah.
that's good. Beautiful.
and the brother didn't know how to do wudu, which is
okay.
it's okay, right? And the comments on this Instagram post were going in on him like fake Muslim, like I'm sure his stream was going in on him too. And I made a comment that got like about 2,000 likes, and I said all I said was, "Don't shame the brother, just teach him."
Yeah.
And I got a lot of responses on that where everyone was like, "No, he should know this. He's a fake Muslim. He has a girlfriend. This da 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 da." And like, my thing is, there's a lot of Muslims like this where they're in born Muslim families. They don't know how to pray. They don't know how to do wudu. They only go to Eid namaz. That doesn't mean we judge them and be like, you're fake Muslim.
Yeah.
We have to have compassion and like the Prophet ﷺ and how he acted, and teach them and be kind and not shame them, right? Obviously, if he's committing sin openly, we have to address that. And but if he's doing something like praying salah on stream, be like, bro, you need to do more of these streams. We want more,
Yes.
But obviously the haram police online, they're like, fake Muslim, fake. So, like, what's your thoughts on it? Like the haram police, and I'll go with Asad first. Like, do we need to stop judging people, right? Like,
So on Saturdays there's this halaqah. We're a part of it. Some of us friends.
We should. I wanted to say that too, just for myself and
Yeah.
we should translate for our audience because they don't know the words.
Yeah. This is like a gathering. It's online, and this with like a spiritual scholar, and he was saying this the other day. He was like, if you find yourself you're doing really good in the religion, if somebody's doing lesser than you, don't judge them. Don't think you're better than them. Just try to find the flaws within your own deeds, and don't judge them. Make dua for them, make prayer for them that they do better. And when you were talking about judgment, and I was looking before for what you had mentioned before, but this is something I always talk about, and I love this. Abdullah ibn Utbah radiallahu anhu reported, Umar bin Khattab, Umar the second Khalifa, may Allah be pleased with him, said, verily people were judged by revelation in the time of the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him. And the revelation has ceased. We only judge now what is manifested outwardly of your deeds. Whoever shows us good, we will trust him and bring him close. It is not for us to judge anything of his inner secrets. Allah will hold him accountable for his inner secrets. Whoever shows us evil, we will never trust him or believe him, even if it is said his intentions are good. And this is found in Sahih Bukhari. It is not a hadith, but it is a saying of Hadith Umar radiallahu anhu, the second Khalifa. So one thing is, if somebody is doing something bad, we should judge the bad deed. If we have the opportunity and we know the person, or we know somebody who knows the person, we're able to address him and tell him what they're doing is not liked, it's not a good act, we should try to let them know. And if we can't let them know, we let somebody else let them know. Somebody from their friend circle who has a moral compass. And still, if they don't get the message, then we should try to, I'm not saying disassociate with them, but keep our distance. Because we don't want to end up in some sort of a circle where we're doing the same things they're doing, which we were finding despicable before, but now we're involved in them. So you have to be careful about that. At the same time, we don't want to, be spreading it in the community. Oh, look at this guy, he's so bad. Don't hang out with them. Just mind your own business. Try to make yourself a better person. Try to find a group of brothers at the masjid. We spoke about this before. Try to find a group of brothers at the masjid, or try to find a group of brothers who maybe they go to the masjid but they hang out somewhere else, right? At a good place. I'm not saying a bad place. Hang out somewhere else. They sit together for the sake of brotherhood and try to make each other better. Sitting for the sake of brotherhood and making each other better doesn't mean that we have a 3-hour gathering where we just read the books of the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ and read the explanation of the Quran and stuff like that. That's a good thing to do, but just surrounding yourself with good people takes you a long way. So, with these people, these influencers online, obviously if they're doing some absolutely impermissible act, we have to see it the way it is. We can't be like, oh, he's hugging a woman who's not his wife. Oh, it's okay. I'm not going to judge him, this and that. Think of the act as bad, but you don't have to write in the comment section, you're a loser, you're going to go to hell. or you're a kafir, like a disbeliever. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. It's just people, they take it upon themselves to go into the comment section and just completely humiliate these social media influencers. And a lot of times they're new Muslims. Like they've been Muslim for less than a year. They don't really have a good guide to teach them. And they're just like going in and telling them that, oh, you're going to go to hell and stuff like that. Like just weigh yourself.
It's hard to leave like a haram lifestyle.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Doing that for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's not easy. And it's just people, they don't understand. Like even like we come from a Pakistani background, you and me, and our family, and you come from a Ghanaian background and Ghanaian Muslim background, and what's it called? Even in our countries, the Muslim populations are not perfect. There's a lot of
Free mixing.
not even the free mixing. There's a whole lot of stuff going on which shouldn't be going on. Like, even like, people going to like shrines and stuff like that, and they just find it as normal religious acts. And, they're asking the Sufi who's buried there for his blessings and stuff. So this is just going on a completely different end. There's people who make acts into religion, which are even from the religion. So that's just as bad as somebody doing something else which is bad. So, bad is bad.
I appreciate that. Razak, what's your thoughts on the influencer world and like people judging? Because I'm gonna be honest, that kind of scares me because I don't want to say I want fame, but everyone deep down wants to be famous, right? Like to a extent.
To an extent, yeah.
But that kind of scares me from like being a public figure. Like I kind of just want to make money and be quiet. That's why I'm trying to figure out how to make businesses. Like, and we can talk about that too, Muslim entrepreneurship. But the public figure thing scares me because there was even like, I'm not gonna mention it, the name, because it's been like talked about so much. But there was a sister that tried to expose a brother. You saw that?
I was so lost. I had no idea what was happening.
Yeah.
And later on, people are like, "Oh, this is not what actually happened." But go ahead. No.
Yeah, she basically painted a false narrative, and then the brother had to come out and say this is not what happened.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That kind of scares me, but then at the same time, I'm like, okay, I know my position with Allah, so it doesn't really matter what people say.
Yeah.
But the comments, I feel like, can get to people. So like, what like I'm gonna be honest. I used to be one of those people in the comments. I used to be a keyboard warrior.
I watched a video. It was funny. It's an old video where the sheikh, he was doing like second nikahs for men, and this is the news people. They had sent somebody before. He went and talked to the sheikh, and he said, "Oh, sheikh, I want to do a second nikah. In this country it's not allowed. Can you just do it? Like legally it's not allowed. Can you do the religious one for He's gonna come through?" So they go to him and they show him the video, and so the sheikh is like, the imam of the masjid, he's like, "Okay, sue me." And I'm just thinking, he's like, "Okay, sue me. What are you gonna do about this?" And it made me laugh because I'm like, I saw, I think, the original post, and I saw the comment section over there, and they're just going after him. And then we have a, I'm not gonna talk about the actual Instagram page. I don't want to propagate or anything, but we have an Instagram page, and on that page there's a very famous female scholar in the United States. She's elderly. She's very knowledgeable. She was talking about taking care of your husband. She's like, there's nothing wrong with that. And the comment section in there, astaghfirullah, man. Muslim people are saying she's not a Muslim because she's saying that. And it's like this super hard feminist.
Did they say she's being oppressed?
Something like that, right? And she's one of the most influential women, honestly, Muslim women around the world. Yeah. And she's saying this, and there was Christian people coming into the thread saying she's actually speaking the truth.
Oh my God. Yeah.
She was saying that people are trying to get divorced over, like, the husband wanted tea and the woman doesn't want to give it, and she's like, I don't want to live with this guy anymore. She's like, you don't know what you're losing out on. He's trying to take care of you the best that he can, and you're just like, I don't want to do anything once he gets home. Yeah. And she was like, don't do that. She's like, don't ruin your house over something you watched online. Yeah. And so, it goes back to the whole thing where the comment section is just like, it's like venom, honestly. And, I know you were going to ask him, I didn't want to take over, but it's just like, the comment section in every video you watch, whichever way it goes, it's it's like there's like snake venom, there's like ticks in there, there's scorpions in there, there's everything in there. Yeah. It's just like a cesspool.
Yeah. What's your overall thoughts on like the influencer like judging and comments and
I don't know. There was a lot that was just said, so I'm trying to process as I think about what I was going to say. No, it's okay. No worries, bro. I think the biggest thing that I want to say first and foremost is there's levels to everything, right? Like everything in life has levels, even to the point to where Allah has told us that there's levels of Jannah and Jahannam, right? We know even in the earth itself, there's the outer crust and then there's a deeper level and then you go down, 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 right? So everything has levels, even when it comes to faith, even when it comes to professionalism, even when it comes to skill, even I don't care what you do, you start at a place and you finish at a different place than you started typically, right? It's just how things go. You start small, you grow old, right? We change. And so I think that when people forget that life is that change, life is that progression, life is that difference and that graduation from where you were to where you're going, people get caught up on where you are. And that's not the purpose of what we're doing here. Allah has put us on a journey. We started with a family so that we had support system to help us, to protect us when we couldn't protect ourselves, right? And then we grew strong enough to protect ourselves. And then we became the protectors for the ones that used to protect us, right? And so there's a growth and a graduation of self and role and identity and beliefs and everything, right? And so if you see that someone is at a stage that they are, first, I think you have to assess where you're coming from, even before I say what I'm going to say. If you are approaching someone to give advice, right? To add a vice to someone, I'm big on words. To add a vice to someone literally is to restrict their movement, right? A vice is something that restricts you, right? Vice grip means to restrict something, right? So if you add a vice to someone, you have to add it with good intent. Right, you have to add it from a good place. So if you know you're approaching someone and you haven't considered why you're approaching them in the first place, you shouldn't approach them at all, right? Because it could be that shaitan is causing a fitna through you.
You're talking about
Right? Intention, right? But knowing your intention and being firm in it before you even approach them, right? My intention is to encourage this person towards good, right? And that's all I intend. And then going that way, you know, in your own self, you're not coming with any other agenda but good. Because some people come sometimes to judge others to make themselves feel good. There's a lot of people who like pride themselves on shrinking others to give themselves the illusion of grandeur, right? But that's not real either. And we talk about narcissism and psychopaths and sociopaths and all these other disorders, but we fail to recognize that those things have levels too. It's not that a person just wakes up and they're a sociopath. You start with little behaviors and those build up, right? Or it's a genetic thing, or it's a chemical thing in the brain, right? It could be anything, right? But when it starts, it doesn't just start. A parent doesn't just get dementia tomorrow, right? First, it's I can't find my keys. Then it's what's the birthday again? So it just becomes more and more progressive. So people have to recognize that life is a journey and everyone is on their journey and everyone is on a path that Allah has set for them, that God has set for them. And they're going through that path and maybe sometimes they go the wrong way, right? And you can clearly see they've gone the wrong way. But if you know when you're close up to something, it's not as easy to distinguish where you are on it as somebody far away. So they have to see I have a privilege. God has put me in a position to be able to help this person. Let me not be malicious. But most of the people online are in a position where they feel like they are the moral authority or supreme. And so they can judge. Right? But we know in our tradition that if we want mercy from God, we have to be merciful. If we want forgiveness, we have to forgive. That is the sunnah that we were taught. That's the way that we were trained. Right? So it's like, where did you learn that from? That didn't come from our tradition. So you have to see that you've even been influenced by something that's outside of our faith, that's outside of Allah's decree. Right? So you need to check on yourself. Like you need to start. Don't worry about it. You have a problem. You're just not seeing it because you're in it. But I'm outside telling you, now how receptive are you? Just like you were trying to make him receptive. And so on and so forth. And I've seen so many influencers who have an audience, who have a platform, who Allah has blessed to be captivating to others, who leave Islam as soon as they come into it because the haram police attack them so hard that they're like, I never want to be associated with whatever these people are associated with. Yeah. Now all of these people are answerable for that.
Too much infighting.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. But even just the fact that there's, like I don't know if this is the case with Christianity, maybe because it's lost its appeal as a true religion or a true faith. And so people don't feel the obligation to come in and correct. Or maybe I'm just not on that part of Instagram. But I know that every time a woman posts, I don't care if she posts a video explaining a hadith. People will come under women, where's your modesty? Where's your shame? Where's your this, that? Immediately they started, just because they see a woman and they feel as men that they have some kind of supremacy or moral authority over this person. And so they feel entitled to giving that opinion. And it's like, you can advise. You said what?
Don't watch it.
Right. So my thing is, did you check your intention? But when you came there, why are you even seeing this woman on your page? Did you follow her?
Yeah,
The brother you were talking about, I don't mean to interrupt, just to finish because I'm almost done. The brother you were talking about with the fitna, I don't know the story. I don't even know who this person is. But my question is, and really what I want to point out is, there's always something that happened that led to the door being open that this type of situation can happen. So I don't know the situation you're talking about, but I can already guess that he did something that he probably shouldn't have done, right? That led to this person then being able to use that thing against him, right? Or expose him. Because how could this person have dirt on you if you haven't gone there?
Yeah, I think
right?
he admitted to, what he said, admitted to messaging the person.
You see what I'm saying? So if he can say that, What is it, like he went in a
He
DM or
admitted
something
his
like this? Okay, so if he can say that, then he at least he recognizes I also had it. So he's not focused so much on her thing as let me make sure I don't do my thing
Yeah,
again.
he wasn't. He actually didn't. Ridicule
I
her
think
for-
I think what it was he was talking with her, which he shouldn't have been, from
Okay.
what
Okay.
I understand.
Okay.
On Instagram, and they were discussing.
single mother thing.
He wanted to marry. That's what he said. He was thinking of marrying.
He was interested in this sister.
No, he wasn't interested in her. That's where the
Yeah.
things got loopy. Is he actually wasn't interested in her?
Yeah.
He was just talking to her and asking her, I guess, her opinion
Yeah, 'cause
on
she's a single
marrying
mother.
a single mother,
Yeah.
and and then marrying like a lady who hasn't been married before for the sake of his family and culture. And he wasn't even talking about abandoning the single mother. I think.
Yeah.
I think he was just trying to.
She
he's
took
like,
it like certain parts.
and
to,
yeah,
like,
she
create a
sort
narrative.
of molded it to create a story, and it's just.
So I guess who is she for him to be asking her?
She has like a page
She an
about.
influencer too?
Yeah, sure. Her whole page is about being a Muslim single mother,
Oh, that's
and
not good on her part. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't know the whole story
know.
because it's never gonna make any sense.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just
Things
everybody
are
just tossing everything. Yeah.
That's my whole point. Like most of the times people
Yeah.
get in there and they're griping, they're doing all this stuff. They have their own faults that they're overlooking
Yeah.
while they're so focused on somebody else. Even us here talking about other people, right? We have things that we could be talking about our own faults right now. We could be saying, brothers, how can you avoid spending so much time, screen time, on in TV or right? That could be the topic here.
Yeah.
That would take us away from focusing on them and focusing on us, and that's really where we should be spending the energy, right?
Yeah.
To me, so that's how I see it.
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like we should, instead of judging other Muslims, look at it within yourself.
It should be a reminder for you when you see your brother fall. Like, may
Yeah.
Allah protect me from that, is what you should say, right? You should pray for them, and you should pray against that for yourself, right? You
Yeah.
should say, may Allah keep me far from that, and may Allah help you get over that or get out of that, right? Should be the attitude.
Yeah.
And then you help if you can help. If you can't, your dua is good.
There was a post I reposted on my story. Allah saved me from committing the sins which I
love
tell
that post.
people not
That's
to
right.
do.
Yeah, I love that post. That's right.
So I want to mention before, I know we have like 30 minutes or so. I just thought of a topic that would be perfect to discuss, but I wanted to get another topic off my chest. It was this lecture I rewatched. One of my favorite speakers, Hamza Tzortis, Greek brother. And I rewatched it because it's one of my favorite lectures. I'm going to put it in the description. He talks about why Allah is worthy of worship. So this lecture, there's certain points of it that changed my perspective on everything in my life. But when you watch a lecture and it hits you, it's easy to get that iman boost in that moment, but then you have to implement what's being said in there. You can't just like take that motivation, you have to implement it.
That's right.
Which is it's easier said than done, right? So there's a point he made about salah. He said salah is not, he doesn't like to call it prayer because he likes to call it submission to God. Because prayer is just like you can pray anytime, dua, right? But he says that submission to God, like at this appointed time, 5 times a day, you're submitting to God's order, as opposed to submitting to your desires, your nafs, to society, because everyone submits to something if it's not God, right? If God's not your Lord, then something else is, as they say, and that's kind of the ultimate form of love, is just submitting to your Creator, the one who created you. And how can you not, like, if He created everything in the heavens and the earth, how can you not follow His order? And that's something I had to think about, because myself included, I know there's people out there, we get lazy with salah. We, we can't wake up for fajr. We, stuck for Allah, but some people miss salah purposefully. I've done it as well. And that's something that I had to think about, but it's easier said than done, because you have to implement it. And but then he said something even more powerful, which I'd love to get both your thoughts on. Is he basically said, and his father actually told him this, and his father is a Christian.
Okay.
And his father said to him, anything above a heartbeat is a blessing.
Oh.
So, lately, life's not been easy for me. for people out there, people, it's even harder in Palestine. Life is hard for everybody out there. And we can get caught up in this negative, self-talk, oh, these things aren't going my way, which we shouldn't do. We should always be positive, always be grateful. And this is something that helps me a lot, is anything above a heartbeat is a blessing, because Allah could take that away, but He's given it to you today. He's given you the ability to walk, talk, if you have that, the ability to see. So we should take that into consideration when we're like thinking about negative things, like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, I'm not where I want to be in life, I don't have enough money, certain things. So I definitely want to send you that lecture, but what's your thoughts on that, like the salah and the blessings Allah has given us, like just for the audience?
So the question is around, like, I guess gratitude, or okay. So I started to get a little emotional while you were talking. I like to be transparent. I'm fine with that. And I think you mentioned earlier being a man or something like this, and I saw Asad laugh. I chuckled a bit because I think that phrase gets thrown around so much, and it means such wildly different things to different people, that it's kind of comical when you hear it, because like, okay, which type of man are you talking about, right? But for me, a man is someone whose character speaks before they do, right? That's what it's about. So making sure that we are presenting the best character in every situation and showing others how to do the same, right? When you do something, you give other people the permission to do it too, whether it's good or bad. That's just something that we should all know. When you do it, you give other people the permission to do it. So you're accountable for it, right? And so we have to be mindful of that. I think, I mentioned to you already, but I just lost some family members last week, which is why it's hitting me harder this week. And so I've been just watching videos on Razak and life, or Razak, the purgatory, for those who are English, and life after death, and what happens and what you should say in the last moments, and du'as, and what to do and prepare. And that's all I've been consuming, I think, for the past week or something. And the thing that keeps hitting me is life is not promised. Like, life is not promised. We don't know how many seconds we have left. Forget minutes. Minutes are a gift. Seconds are not a promise, right? We don't know. And so it's like, whatever we're doing in that moment has to be worth the time that we have, right? It's how we have to think about it. And we have to be grateful for the opportunity to do the thing that we were doing, right? A friend of mine said to me, and I think this is very profound, and I'm going to look into this. He said to me that he appreciates the sunlight. And he's not Muslim, but inshallah, make dua for him. I won't name him, but I'm praying for him. He said to me that he wants to have a practical understanding of his existence in this world. And he saw that Christianity was giving him a lot of fairy tales, at least modern Christianity, what he was getting from the church. And so he started to investigate. He's learned some things in science that have helped him understand things in a better context. And one thing that he understood was that, and I'm going to butcher this, but I'm pretty sure he said to me that, I don't know if it was sunlight or something that sunlight engages with, but I think he said sunlight is an emulsifier, is what he told me. So it's pretty much something that blends two things together, right? Anything that you mix in to blend two things that usually won't mix together, like oil and water, is an emulsifier. It brings those things together. So he was telling me that sunlight is an emulsifier between the spiritual world and the physical world. He's not Muslim, right? So I'm giving you his understanding of life. And he was saying to me that sunlight comes from a place that we don't comprehend. It's something that is outside of our realm of control. It's something that we just contend with or deal with because it exists, but it's nothing that we could ever even come close to controlling or manipulating to our own desire, right? The best we can do is adjust to what sunlight is doing, right? And so we build dwellings, we do all that, and you've seen the whole world shift because of sunlight. Plants depend on sunlight. Animals, everything. The sun is everything the sun is involved in. So he was telling me, if a person were to sit and reflect on, he's read the Quran, he's read the Injil, he's read the Torah, he's read the Psalms, he's done his homework. And he was telling me, if a person were to sit and reflect on the story of Abraham, or reflect on the major faiths before, like monotheistic faiths, it was fire worship. It was sun worship, right? Because they recognized how important the sun was to life. Even that alone, seeing the value that the sun provides to you and just reflecting on all of the different benefits you get from the sun, could lead you to a place of faith or deep conviction, right? Just because you think about how life is impossible, like it's nowhere near fathomable without all of the things that the sun does for us. Even if something as simple as evaporating water so that it can go back up into clouds and move and come back down in a different place that needs it more than here, right? Simple, like, so he made me think, like, man, I really do take my faith, my religion, my deen, my knowledge for granted, because Allah has given me this without me having to go through the journey of thinking and calculating and doing all the like all the stuff that he's doing, right now to try to to increase his understanding of himself and faith. Allah has given that to me. I take that for granted majorly. I heard one time somebody referenced the Quran as a letter from Allah, right? Or a letter from God. They said, if your loved one who you hadn't seen in 100 years sent you a letter, would you open it and read it? I said, absolutely. Like I would, if your mother who had passed away sent you a letter and they told you this is the last thing she wrote for you before she left, would you read it? Absolutely. How much more the one who created your mother, the one who created everyone who has come before you, the one who makes your heart beat right now that you don't thank for every beat, the one who makes your breath come, how much more a letter from that one? Right? But we don't even appreciate it. So I'm telling you, there's so much more depth to the gratitude that we can show for the opportunity of life we've given. It goes like this. We could show gratitude, but we don't. And so for me, it's like, man, I don't know like that I can be, even in moments of like negativity, all I can think is, man, don't be ungrateful. Like even Allah gives and Allah takes. Like it's just the way that it is. Yeah. And we're thankful for the opportunity to even experience give and take. To experience sorrow is a gift. To experience rage is a gift. To experience joy is, because they're all facets of life, right? And so I'm just thankful for the ability to be here, to be living, to go outside and feel the sun on my skin, to go to sleep and wake up again, to see the people I love, to eat the food that I like, because it's all experiences that I won't have 100 years from now. I'm not here, guaranteed. Like I'm not. Bro. It's all. I'm looking at the time that passed. Like I remember being there, but it seems like it was just yesterday, but it's gone. And like I said, death is just that reminder. So I feel like for everyone who's watching, for everyone who's thinking about it, like, you don't know how much time you or anyone else around you has, and somebody is going to go first. And so just be grateful for the time, the opportunity to live, to worship. Thank the one who sent you here. Be in harmony with everything else that exists and submit, right? It just makes sense. Everything else is doing what the Creator's commanded it to do. If the sun stopped coming up 1,000 years ago, we wouldn't be here today, right? But it's been on that clock schedule for since creation, right? Yeah. And so we appreciate that. Let's think about the things that give us life. And let's reciprocate that appreciation, that love, that caring by showing that to everything else that exists, and also thanking the one who created it all, right? So I know I said a lot, but that's really where I feel. It's a deep gratitude, right?
Yeah, beautifully said. I think negativity is crazy, because before I sent it to you, I said, like, I was with somebody and they were just like complaining, and that negative energy was kind of like bringing me down. And I was like, I had to think about how many times have I done this to somebody else, like, brought their energy down, and like, so now I try to like think about that and just be positive, like, alhamdulillah, how are you, brother? Alhamdulillah, like, can't complain. Yeah. So but what's your thoughts on what Razak just said, and the blessings Allah has given us, just for the audience to.
I think Abdul Razak did a good job. I don't really have anything to add, but he was talking about the sun and all the qualities of the sun. And earlier today, my son, he's 6 years old. He's a big animal fan. He knows about dinosaurs and whales and every animal you can think of. He knows something about it, right? He's still learning. He doesn't know all the animals, but he knows as much as he knows. And my wife, I think she saw something with him, and she was telling me about, and this was like sort of like a scientific program, and that's mostly what my son watches. And they were talking about the death of a whale, and how the death of a whale enhances the ecosystem around it. That when it dies, it actually sinks to the bottom of the ocean. And as it's sinking to the bottom of the ocean, and I actually want to look into this, and the sort of like, the way it goes down, the way the waves move around it, there's like this effect on the system around it because of that. And then when it hits the bottom, the animals which consume its flesh, which consume its meat, which consume its bones, which consume every part of that animal, the benefit they get, that, when we talk about it, that Allah is feeding everybody, that birds get fed every day, but they don't have a job, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is feeding thousands and thousands of creatures under the sea from this one whale dying. And what did they say? We went to SeaWorld recently, and they were like, I think they said like 70% of the sea or the ocean has not even been discovered yet. We don't know much about it. So we don't even know how deep it is. We have these calculations, but nobody's been down there because we don't have the technology to even make it down there. And so we don't know what Allah has in store just on this dunya. just on this earth. So could we imagine what's in store for us in the hereafter? And so we really have to thank Allah for each and everything He has given us, because we don't know the blessings we're getting. And my Jummah this past week was about optimism and how we need to be optimistic. And there's ayat in the Quran which talk about this. There's hadith that talk about this. And, the Prophet ﷺ, his demeanor, he was an orphan, right? According to the Sharia of Islam, once a child loses the father, they're considered an orphan. He lost his father, he lost his mother, he lost his caretaker, his uncle, he lost his wife, Hazrat Khadija. He lost so many people in his life, right? And he lost a daughter while he was living, so on and so forth. He saw a lot of death around him. He saw his uncles pass away. He saw his sons pass away. He didn't have any living sons. He saw his uncle Hamza, be killed during war, and his body opened up and his liver chewed out, and he saw all of that. And still he was optimistic. Still he was the same man who was telling people to put, your hand over the orphan's head, right? To make sure they're shielded, to make sure they're taken care of. If a person goes through that much, emotional, physical, mental damage, to still be worried about other people is just amazing. And that shows how thankful he was for each and everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. And he wasn't like an extremely rich man or anything like that. He didn't have multiple houses and tons of camels or anything. He wasn't a rich individual, but he was still more thankful than we can ever be with all of the luxuries which we have.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
I want to add just the hadith, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know it exactly. The topic of gratitude is just making me emotional right now. But like I said, it's just deep because it's like, man, how I understand how, because we're tricked by our own desires and shaitan and all. So I can understand how we can be deviated, right? And we have the narration about how Allah created Jannah and then He put all the difficulties around it, and then Jibril came back and said, how could anyone make it here? And then Jahannam, and it was beautiful. So we know the story essentially is that what is attractive to the eye is usually damning to the heart, right? And what is attractive to the heart is usually the eye rejects it, right? And so this is just the nature of man. And so we can see how we can deviate from what's good for us. But I think the thing that I wanted to mention in terms of the hadith was the narration from our mother Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, the wife of the Prophet, where she mentioned, Sallallahu peace and blessings be upon him, where she mentioned that he used to stand in prayer at night until his feet were swollen. And so one day she asked him, O Messenger of Allah, you've already been guaranteed paradise, it's granted for you, Allah is pleased with you. Why do you stand, at such long length to the point where your feet are swollen, right? And the only thing he said back to her, and this is a lesson for all of us, he said, should I not be a grateful servant? Should I not be a grateful servant? So gratitude is what made him stand until his feet were swollen. And he's the prophet of Allah. Yeah. And he stood until his feet were swollen in gratitude. How much more grateful should we be that he came to be able to deliver this message for us? All right. And so it's like we have such lofty models. It's like there's not enough gratitude for us. You understand what I'm saying? Like the example that we have, our true role model that we're talking about, our prophet, may Allah be pleased with him, and us. Yeah. His example is so lofty. We don't need to look at any of these guys. We're not going to reach his. Like we can just focus on his path and shoot the whole way and just keep striving for it. We'll never get there. So forget these other guys. Everyone should have even if you don't have just his name on the wall, just so you're reminded when you come into your, how people have the Jordan posters and the Kobe Duncan. They should have the prophet's name on the wall. Right. Peace and blessings be upon. Just so when you walk into the room, it reminds you of who you should be. All right, it reminds you of the character you should have. And it's like, man, the gratitude in this man that Allah has blessed us with is like a good example for all of us. So the fact that was his response, he didn't say, I'm grateful and I want to get more hasanats and all that. He just said, should I not be grateful? He asked her.
It wasn't like a reward thing.
Right. He was like, should I not be thankful for what Allah has done for me with giving? Like, if Allah has guaranteed you paradise, right? If Allah has given you the ability to spread this deen, if Allah has seen you through so much hardship, if Allah has allowed you to overcome your enemies, if Allah has allowed you to marry and to see your children go in and have new children, if Allah has allowed you sadness and then happiness and this, like, that this is a journey. This is a journey. This is an experience. So be thankful for we are grateful for the experience. Ya Allah, we are thankful, dear God, we are thankful for the opportunity to be on this earth and experience what you call life. We are so happy with that because we didn't have to be here, right? We forget that Allah is the knower of the seen and unseen, the created and the uncreated. Yeah. So Allah knows every possibility that could have been and gave us a chance.
Craig, sorry to cut you off.
No, for sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Allah asked us if we wanted this test and we agreed. So that kind of puts into
You're talking about
perspective, like,
when the souls were pulled from Adam alayhi salam's
Yeah.
soul and Allah asked, okay, yeah.
so, like,
Or he
I'm
asked, who is
kinda-
your Lord, I think was the question, right?
so what'd you say?
I think the question was, who is your Lord? I don't know if you know this hadith. That's it.
Do you know this?
I know what you're referencing.
Yeah.
What's it called? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had everybody in front, or so, where all the souls were asked.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
But I was remembering what you were talking about in Arabic, where the Prophet ﷺ, he asked Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, "Afala akuna abdan shakura?" That shall I not be a grateful servant? And I just kept thinking
me,
that.
bro. It touches me because I think about it and it's like, man, I don't. If our Prophet sallallahu peace and blessing upon him can think like this and he can move like this, how much more I, right, who Allah has given so much and I've done so little. Our Prophet sallallahu gave our Prophet peace and blessing gave everything that he had.
People slandered his name. Tried to kill
I'm telling
him.
you, everything that you value, he gave it. His wealth, his reputation, his family, his whatever you value, he gave it. Right? He gave everything he had, and he showed the people his hands in his last sermon. Right? Have I not given you everything that Allah has given me? Have I not delivered him a message to you? Right? Be my witness. And they all said yes, and we're his witness too because we received it.
Yeah.
After all these millennia, after a millennia, we received it. So he's done his. So it's like I have to be grateful, not even out of some force. It's just out of a recognition of the mercy that I've been given, right? I'm just thankful for the life that I have. I just see it, right? And the people that I see that are lost, people that I see that don't know where they're going, whatever, it's just like, man, that just increases me in gratitude because it's like, man, I could have been anybody out here. Anyone I see could have been me, right? So, alhamdulillah, I'm just thankful.
I want you to break your fast. So,
Okay.
it's 8:40. Or do you want to head out or?
No, we can wait.
Or Maghrib is at 8:40.
We can wrap on.
Yeah, let's wrap up in the next 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, the topic was deep that I had the next one, but I don't think we have enough time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bro.
No, it's okay.
No, it's mashallah. I enjoyed listening to you.
Yeah, I just thought of this topic because I saw you guys talking about like the ummah, and I thought maybe for the next podcast, inshallah, that like what can we do to bring the community together, specifically Charlotte. We see it's kind of divided. Just being honest with the audience, if people from Charlotte are watching, like you got to look at what's going on. Like
It is what it is.
You said it already. It's everybody wants to be a king, man. There's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Too many chiefs, man.
But what I've noticed is this is happening around. You've been traveling. This is happening around the U.S. Like, masjids are separated. There's having separate Eid namazes. It's not just in Charlotte.
Yeah. You gotta remember, we're one of the only faith communities in this country that is ethnically diverse, right? As well as
Extremely ethnically diverse.
Like, I'm talking, you can be from anywhere, right? We have people from literally everywhere that are congregations, our imams, our leaders. Our imam is like a religious leader. Our religious leaders, our business leader, whatever. All of our leaders are trying to reconcile with so many different opinions. For example, you just said namaz. Yeah. Like that's normal for you. I would have never heard that word growing up unless I was around people that are from Pakistan or India, right? Because we don't say that.
Yeah.
We say salah, right? That's what we knew. So even those differences, I appreciate it because it's like all of us are the same just in our different cultural contexts. Yeah. But some people get caught up on the differences. Yeah. And I feel like that's the problem right now. Like people are too caught up on the different. If we were to say we're not going to talk about anything that makes us different, right? Yeah. Just set that as a rule when we enter the room. No talking about anything that makes us different. So if there's two genders in the room, everyone is they. To that extreme, like don't talk about anything that's different. You would see people not talking, because they're so used to talking about the differences between. There's nothing to discuss once there's no fitna or there's no fight or anything to discuss in terms of differences. We're not used to talking on common terms. Does that make sense?
I think it's a hadith. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like the Prophet ﷺ said, if you have a difference of opinion with somebody, and you're arguing or something, even if you know you're right. Just leave the conversation or admit to being wrong.
Okay. I don't know that hadith, but that's.
Have you heard that hadith?
I know what you're talking about. Like I said, but the exact context of the hadith I don't know off the top. But I don't think it's. In many cases, it's better to not have an argument, even if you're right, and just leave it. And I believe it's the saying of Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, where it's like. The silent lion is better than the barking dog, and what's it called? And the reason is, generally speaking, when a religious argument takes place, the person who's right will lay out what the facts are, But the person who doesn't want to agree, even if they don't have the facts right, they're going to continue to argue. So many times, it's even if you have the knowledge, it's best to just, just leave it. It's not worth dragging the conversation out and arguing about it.
I think that's wise, though, right?
Yeah.
I think wisdom, experience will teach you that, right? Sometimes it's best to not engage.
You just like go back and forth, leads to nothing.
And it just leads to animosity, really.
Yeah.
Like that person and you now have bad blood, and then it just grows, right?
So, for in 60 seconds, both of you, if you both have 60 seconds, you're looking at the camera, you're talking to the entire Muslim Ummah in America.
Okay.
What can we do to, this is to the leaders as well, what can we do to, this is your elevator pitch, what can we do to bring the community together that's been separated and there's all this infighting and difference of opinion?
Man, that's hard. Okay, 60 seconds. I'm going to point out two things. The first thing is knowledge. We have a severe shortage of knowledge in our community in America, and I think it's because we have too much information accessible to us, and so we feel like we have knowledge, but we don't actually have knowledge to operate with. So I would say the first thing is practical knowledge. Prioritize practical knowledge over theoretical and feel-good knowledge, right? Teach people how to do something, and once they've learned how to do it, then move on in the religious teaching, right? Don't move on until they've mastered how to do things. The first thing. The second thing I would say is to be more inclusive. Be more open-minded. America is a place with a lot of different people who come from all over the place all the time. And we know that we also have the most diverse faith group of all the faith groups here. So naturally, we should be absorbing all of these people. If we don't make a concerted effort, intentional effort to absorb these people, we'll lose our opportunity and we'll lose our relevance in society. And so I think that we're uniquely positioned to be successful if we prioritize bringing those people in and practical knowledge over everything else.
Beautifully said. Asad.
The Razak said it nicely. But we just need to bring the hearts together. And that's the main thing. When you win the heart over, there's no battle after that. And the Prophet ﷺ was able to win over the hearts of all of the enemies. That even if they didn't agree with his message, they couldn't agree with the person. They couldn't disagree with the person. So that's basically what we need to do. Is we need to become like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, like the Razak said earlier. Have that picture in your house, not picture. Have the name of the Prophet ﷺ in your house. So as soon as you walk in, you're like, I gotta be like him. Just be the best follower of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That they can't disagree with your message. That's how the Sahaba won people over. That's how when Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu was leaving Egypt, the Christians were crying for him to not leave. He was moving forward to liberate more lands, and they're like, stay here. These are Christians crying to keep a Muslim general in their lands.
Yeah.
Because he took that example of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he put it inside of him, and they're like, we don't want you to go. So we got to be like that.
Well, beautifully said, Asad. Thank you, Razak, for joining me. I'm a link. Asad has a podcast, Straight Path Podcast. Very good content. I'm gonna link your Instagram as well. You post a lot of good stuff on your story. Yeah, man, I enjoyed this, and inshallah we can do it again. And I had more topics listed, but just sake of time, the brothers are fasting, so yeah. Thank you guys.